Hello, and welcome to Stephoodle. I am, proudly, Steph, and I got together with a few of my friends here on YouTube for a Pride collab. Now, I've mentioned before that I am non-binary, and all of the dolls that I've made for Pride over the years have been trans and or non-binary, and I don't intend to stop now, because trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks need support more than ever. I'll talk about that more later in the video. Let's get to the doll. I want to make a trans man this year, so I dug around in my stock box and ended up choosing this BTS doll. His face sculpt fit the character I had in my head the most. I do the usual prep, removing the head, getting rid of all the hair, and painstakingly scrubbing away the factory face, as these dolls have that really difficult to remove printing. Good for when a kid is playing with it, annoying for me. I paint the scalp black and seal it in with Mod Podge. I'll be rerouting him with this silver yarn fiber that I brushed and straightened. I want to give him a side shave, so I mark the new hairline with some masking tape. I take a small bit of the yarn fiber, wrap it over my finger, scoop it up with my reroute tool, and plunge it into the head. And I'll do this about 1,000,000 more times until he looks like this. I'll be flocking the shaved side later on. For now, I'll squeeze some all-purpose glue into the head and spread it around with a cotton bud before setting it aside to dry. I spray the head with a couple of layers of sealant and get to work on the face-up, using watercolor pencils and soft pastels. And while I work on the face, let's talk. Things are bad right now. It's scary, especially for trans women. Especially for trans women of color. Even though I'm American, I've lived in the UK for the vast majority of my adult life, and it is indeed TERF Island over here. The media has been bent against trans folks for years, and our government has too. I had hoped once Labour got in a year ago that would change, but sadly, they're proving just as bad, if not worse than the Conservatives. Then there was the Cass report, which was heavily biased and does not follow the current science. Not to mention the recent Supreme Court ruling in a case that was heavily funded by a once beloved children's author. But I digress. There is still some good happening. Communities are pulling together to support one another. People are organizing, and not just on this issue, but also about immigration and basic human rights. And I have to hope that despite everything, that what we are experiencing now is a last gasp of extreme bigotry before some level of liberation. I want to believe that people are fundamentally good and that empathy is valued, despite all evidence to the contrary. But that's just how I'm feeling. How about you folks? And after some highlights and a little sparkle, the face-up is done. These hands are a little stiff, so I'm going to cut apart the fingers and use my heat gun to soften the plastic so I can make them have a more natural pose. I may have melted his fingers a tiny bit because I accidentally had the heat gun on high for a little bit, but thankfully it's not too noticeable. Time for body blushing, top surgery scars, and tattoos. I knew I wanted this boy to have at least a few tattoos. At first I looked up references for top surgery scar tattoos, which I didn't end up giving him, but I saw a few Luna moths and I thought, ooh, that would be a cool chest piece, sort of representing transformation. I also wanted him to have at least one botanical piece, so I looked up flower language and saw that in a comparison of Eastern versus Western interpretations, that peonies could mean masculinity, but also boldness, and that seemed fitting. And I decided to throw in a moon rod from Sailor Moon, which is another reference to transformation. Once the tattoos were done, I added a bit of light pink PanPastel over the top to help them blend into the skin a little bit more. And it looks extreme right now, but it dulls down a lot when you spray it, so it won't, you'll still be able to see the tattoos. Reattaching the head to the body was kind of a nightmare. I forgot how difficult these heads were to put back on. It took me 3 tries and I ended up damaging one of its eyes. Next time I'm putting the head back on before I do the face up. At least it was an easy enough fix and you can't even tell that anything happened. Now that's sorted, I can add flocking to his side shave. Off camera, I cut some black yarn into teeny tiny pieces. I paint the area I want to flock with some glue, then press the fibers on. Then I'll let it dry overnight. The next day I use a toothbrush to gently brush away the excess flock. There are a couple of places I want to touch up, so I just repeat the process by dabbing on a little bit more glue on the affected areas and pressing on some more flock. On to clothing. I'll be making him a side split tank with a graphic on the front. I use washi tape to mark out where I want the graphic to be on the front of the shirt, and tape the piece onto some cardboard to keep it flat. I mix white acrylic paint with an equal part of fabric medium and paint the entire area I marked off. I paint in the stripes of the trans pride flag. And with a paint pen, I start working on the lettering, starting with the middle letters of each line and working outwards. The pen kept getting snagged on the paint unfortunately, so off camera I used a small brush to clean up the lettering. Then I added a layer of matte Mod Podge to seal it. Now I can do some sewing. I'll start by attaching the back pieces to the front at the shoulders. Then I'll hem the armholes and add the collar. Next, I'll sew up the side seams. I hem the bottom. Then I sew up the back part way and add a snap closure. And here's the shirt all done. These are the front panels of the shorts. I'll sew the pocket linings to them, good side, and then flip them to the other side, creating a clean edge. Now I can sew the pockets to the lining. I also added some decorative stitching around the pocket opening and added a stitch to tack the short fronts and the pockets together. Next I sew the back pieces to the fronts and add some decorative top stitching. I hem the bottoms, then I sew the two legs together at the center seam. These are the back pockets. I'll hem the top and fold the seam allowance on the remaining sides under and press. Now I can hem the top of the shorts and sew on the back pockets. I sew up the back seam part way. Then I can flip everything so I can sew up the inseam from one leg opening to the other. Now I just need to add a snap for closure, and the shorts are done. I painted his shoes black and then decided to add some dragonfly glaze on top to make them a bit more interesting. Then I sealed them with Mod Podge. And here they are! I saw a reel on Instagram from Jessica.industries making a brick purse for Pride, and I knew immediately that I wanted to recreate it in miniature. So I cut a piece of 10mm high density EVA foam to roughly the size I think a brick would be at that scale, and I used some sandpaper and a crumpled up ball of aluminum foil to try and add a little bit of a rough texture. I heat sealed the foam with my heat gun, and added a layer of Mod Podge just to make extra sure that the paint won't just seep into the foam. Unsurprisingly, I painted the brick a brick color. Then I dry brushed a layer of white around the sides before adding my Trans Pride colors. I sprayed it with some Citadel matte sealant to keep it really matte. Because matte Mod Podge, despite calling itself matte, is really more of a satin finish. To make the strap, I sewed a couple of tiny D-rings to this sparkly ribbon. Off camera, I made the brackets that will go on the sides of the brick out of wire and paperboard. Well, I did film it, but it was actually really fiddly and hard to see what I was doing, so I'm not going to show it here. I gave the brackets a coat of Mod Podge. Then I pre-painted the sides with a chrome marker before gluing the brackets onto the sides of the foam brick. Once dry, I inserted some straight pins to make that connection really secure and to look like little bolts. Then I colored the rest of the brackets with my chrome marker. And that's the brick purse done. I love it. It's so cute. It turned out so much better than I thought it would. So here's our doll. I gave his hair a trim off camera. His shirt. His shorts. His shoes. And his brick purse. All that's left to do is get him dressed, and he's done. I decided to name him Phoenix, as I think he would like a name representing transformation and rebirth. I'm really pleased that I was able to bring the outfit I had in my head to life. And I love that the brick purse is a perfect reminder of Stonewall and that pride is still a protest. Thank you again, Jessica Industries. What do you think of Phoenix? And I'll ask the same question I asked last year. What's something that's made you happy lately? Let me know in the comments down below. I finally got around to watching Dimension 20, and I've been really enjoying watching the intrepid heroes in different campaign settings. Like, it's been a blast to have on in the background. I love it. Please, please, please check out the amazing dolls made by my friends Boho Punks, Starlight Dream Dolls, and Electric Bunny. They all did a fantastic job. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications so you'll know whenever I post a new video. These are all my socials, which will be linked down below. I'm most active on Instagram. Special thanks to Jade, who sent me a tip on Ko-fi. And if you really like what I do, and you want to buy me a coffee or help me afford more supplies, you can find a link to my Ko-fi tip jar in the description below, or you can click on the super thanks button right below this video. And until next time, bye!